All right, everybody, we're back with the Street Hockey Life podcast. It's been a little while. We're in the new year, 2022. Dan and I have been obviously very busy with a couple of different things. We're preparing for our own upcoming seasons. We've got new launches coming. We've got a new adaptive program for getting youth hockey players, even adults that have special needs, and sort of providing that program. So it's a new thing. We get a chipmunk program coming up, and we also have our regular season that will start in the summer. So we got a lot going on. We're still trying to build this rink. But as always, my co-host, Dan, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, doing well. Just like you said, it's been a pretty busy 2022, basically kicked off with, trying to get stuff done, with after the holidays wrapped up, even just the weather in New England has been, touch and go in terms of, super cold from a, ice hockey rink perspective. We had a really good year, had a really fun birthday party on the rink. So that was a lot of fun. And then, as Kyle said, focusing on getting our new programs, because even the Chipmunk League, that's a new program as of starting in the spring. We did it for the first time in the fall. We're trying to pick it up back again in the spring. My daughters are pretty excited. They can't wait to get back out there. So that's really good.
We need to.
But yeah, that's been pretty much it.
We'll need to find a location for this while our rink is under construction. But yeah, and I had the opportunity for the birthday party to skate myself on the the new improved rink that Dan and I, we almost did a video on it, but didn't. But he did a great job of building the rink up this year, and we got a chance to skate on it. I first time, and now it's 60 degrees today in New England as we're filming this. So, but anyway, good job on that. So today we have a special guest. We have Mr. Scott Tarzy, who many people know in the ball hockey world, basically the founder of the High School Ball Hockey League. I've been very impressed. I've been wanting to talk to him for a very long time. And Scott, from my perspective, Corey Hurst has talked highly of you from USA Ball Hockey and things like that. So today we're going to learn all about high school ball hockey. And from our perspective, someday, hopefully in New England, we'll have potentially some sort of high school program as well. So we're going to be modeling off Scott today, but thanks so much for joining, Scott. We appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys.
Excellent. And so I know there's been a lot of developments going on with you, but just to get started, I mean, how did you get into the world of ball hockey?
To start in ball hockey, well, I played a little bit of ball hockey, way back in the early 70s, not in any organized fashion. We literally just played in the street. Myself and all the neighborhood kids, we played against other neighborhoods. We played with, the orange ball, or when they went in the sewer, we played with a tennis ball or whatever we could find. And it was not organized at all, and I was not very good. I did have a couple friends that were pretty good hockey players, but I wasn't good. And after that, I kind of lost touch with the ball hockey world until my sons were about 6-7 years old, and they wanted to play in the local league. And then I got involved, and that's 25 years ago now. I got involved in the Marlton hockey program, and I coached for a little bit of time. Then I ran one of the divisions, and I ended up running the entire league for a number of years as a commissioner. When I took over as commissioner, we had about 250 kids in the program. When I stopped, we were just over 750 kids, somewhere in that neighborhood. So the program is pretty good size for South Jersey. After that, I coached some tournament hockey starting back, I guess, 2006. This past year, I didn't coach. It was the first time I didn't coach in our rec league and our tournament league for this past winter season. So it's been quite a stint. I put a couple years in with Ashy and Chris Banks and Ricky Lapierre and the guys up in Milek. Ran the juniors program for a few seasons there. And that's basically my background in hockey.
Excellent. And With being down in, in South Jersey, are kids playing ice hockey too down there, or is this just primarily a lot of ball?
No, they play a lot of ice hockey. Um, it becomes a little bit of a conflict in the ice hockey, ball hockey world because the seasons overlap. So a lot of the top end kids end up going to ice hockey, and then you have the conflicting schedules. What I've seen though is over the last 20 years, the ice hockey guys really love it when they get a ball hockey player. If a kid who's played ball hockey for a few years and they've been taught the real basics of the game, and they step on the ice and they teach them how to skate, and they don't have to teach them so much the hockey part of it. And they put two and two together, and four comes really quickly for those kids, versus just learning how to skate and play hockey at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like Danny mentioned he has twin girls, and then I have 3 girls myself, and his twin girls and my girls are close in age. They're they're 6, and then we have a 4-year-old, and my youngest daughter is only 2, and then my nephew Tyler, he's 3 now, right, Dan? So
Yeah.
but they're actually their first stick is really its introduction to street hockey. It's actually not ice, whereas my father had my brother and I skating first. Being from New England, we had skates on by the time we were 3. So
Right.
for our kids, it's sort of the opposite. They're used to now. It's more putting a street hockey stick in their hand and having them go for it. And of course, where we have these programs where we're running it, it's easy to put our kids in it. But I'm hoping that they get the I don't know, Dan, if you want to add to how your kids enjoy it, but one daughter's still a little intimidated, but it's interesting because I'm a big advocate of that, where teaching kids how to stick handle doesn't have to be right on the ice right away. You can, I spent many years in a driveway honing my stick handling ability, so I'm a huge advocate.
Well, yeah, and I think for us, it's even just the idea with what we try to preach is even just the idea of just carrying the ball, even not even stick handling, but building that confidence of carrying the ball where it can roll with you, and then you kind of can build a lot more aggressiveness than this tentative behavior on the ice where you're just going up and down. Like when I was a kid, I played, and I just went. My dad would tell me, "Okay, go, blue line to blue line." So then I'd go out there, I'd go blue line to blue line. Then he'd be like, "All right, then you can turn in once in a while." Then I'd go down and I'd just turn in, and whereas at least with street hockey, what's been nice about my girls is that, they've really taken off running and being a lot more aggressive than you would realize, so that you develop that, because I'm kind of about just running around, being more aggressive, and you can always tailor that back or pull it back later instead of being tentative and then trying to build that drive. So that's what one of the cool things I think that that street hockey lends itself to, that covering a lot of area, things like that.
Absolutely. So with you being in New Jersey, you have a ton of experience coaching. You manage coaches now. How did you actually come up with with this high school ball hockey league?
Yeah, so that's a little bit of a misnomer. I did not come up with the league. I was actually at home. I received a phone call from one of the guys who runs one of the local youth organizations and said, "Hey, Scott, we're going to have a meeting of a bunch of coaches. We want you to come and sit in on the meeting and provide some input and see what we're going to do." And what the meeting really was some of the smaller clubs couldn't put together their own rec leagues, mostly in the cadet division. So they would end up with 1 or 2 teams each, and they were trying to figure out, okay, if I have a team and you have a team, how do we kind of merge them together and do it, where it's competitive games, and what rules are we going to play with and under. And that was really the start of the meeting. And as the meeting progressed, it really became what if we did it by high school? How would that look? And, who would run it? And what rules are we going to play under? Where would we play? What time of the year? All that kind of stuff. And that meeting lasted oh, good 3-4 hours. There were some wings and beers involved, and you know, everybody left the meeting kind of really on a high note of, oh, you know, this is really interesting. And then as things go, and everybody gets into their really busy world, the next 2 or 3 days was kind of radio silence by everybody. And having only older kids now, like my oldest is 30 and my youngest is 25. You know, I'm sitting around going, okay, this is a great idea. Well, we have to do this. So I sent a note to a couple of the guys and said, hey, is anybody like, you know, be in the forefront of this, is going to spearhead this thing? And they're like, no, if you want to do it, go for it. And that's all I needed, literally. I mean, it's really all I needed. I drafted a note, put it up on Facebook, threw it out there, and almost instantaneously, my phone just absolutely blew up. And the first season, we pulled together in 60 days, the entire league, from scheduling to rosters to uniforms, refs, the whole thing in 60 days. Was kind of hectic. But my brother, Mike, and Mike Mowry from Medford, they helped me a lot running the league. Sorry about that. That's my dog in the background. Hold on a second. Getting a delivery, so I guess.
I mean, for us, Scott, it's usually kids coming in and out of the rooms, you know.
Yeah.
No
Well, my
worries.
granddaughter's here also, so she's 4. She started Chipmunks this year, which is a blast. There's
awesome.
nothing better than watching your grandchild play ball.
That's awesome.
So, hold on one second for me.
Yeah, my dog does the opposite. She'll not bark at someone a foot from the door, but will bark at the guy 30 feet away walking by.
Yeah, right.
It's all about the perimeter. She's, you know, kind of like a flock guardian, territorial, but it's like I don't know, she's crazy. She doesn't make any sense to me, but her mind works in certain ways.
That's my son's dog is the same way, and if you get in the house, you're good. You can take whatever you want, but you'll never get in if you're scared. But all good. So that was really the start of it. In the first season, we had 12 teams, 12 different schools. And then the second season, we went from 12 to 18 varsity teams and 6 JV teams. Last year, we decided we were going to do a test market in the middle school, and we asked 6 middle schools, you know, guys with kids in 6 middle schools, hey, would you be interested? And they said yes. So I posted on Facebook, hey, we're going to have a new middle school division. These are the 6 teams. And my phone starts ringing. What do you mean? We're not included? We're not allowed to play? I'm like, no, you want to play. Like, it was just going to be a test market. But
That's awesome.
We went to 14 middle schools last year. And this year, between the varsity, the JV, the middle school, looks like we're going to be up around 44 to 50 teams. And now we just added an all-female division, which will be a draft division to play at the same time. So that's 6th to 12th graders.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done, really. You guys
Yeah,
doing a
that's
great
impressive.
thing. I mean, what we've just to sort of piggyback. We obviously have more questions about how the program is set up, but I mean, from like where Dan and I grew up in Gloucester, Mass, which we played up. We had a team, Scott, that played in the U.S. Nationals in Leominster, and we had about 15 kids that had never stepped foot on a ball hockey rink before, on a deck rink, whatever you want to call it. And we opened up against Gloucester, New Jersey. So it was comical because Gloucester, New Jersey obviously has a really good program down there. And then there's us who has, you know, we were practicing on, you know, a 100-foot rink for a little while. And so anyway, but, you know, where we grew up, I didn't find out about Leominster till I was in high school. And Gloucester's probably, I don't know, Dan, it's a hike from Gloucester and Leominster. They're about an hour and 15 minutes apart. But I was driving to a game, one of my high school games as obviously as a player, and we went right by Route 2 where Leominster is. And that was like, I'm like, oh, that looks really cool. That's a street hockey rink. I'd love to play on that. And now my life is more involved in street hockey than it is in ice. But the reason why I'm sharing all this is that, you know, the natural progression for an ice hockey player is you play for your town team, maybe you play selects, then you go to middle school, potentially play for your middle school team, and then it's off to high school. And then hopefully if you're good enough, it's off to college and things like that. Whereas with you, you're already establishing that for a ball hockey player. Do kids feel that way, that they're like progressing towards, hey, I'm going to play for my high school team someday? Does that make sense, that question?
The question makes sense. And part of our discussions when we were putting the league together really centered around growing the game, right? So a lot of people talk about growing the game. What we didn't want to do is we didn't want to infringe on the established clubs, right? So there's a lot of established clubs down here in South Jersey that have different seasons, different times of the year. And we didn't want to go out and start pulling kids from those programs. So this really was in addition to those programs, another avenue for these kids to play, where they can play with their buddies they go to school with. I'm not sure how it is up by where you live, but here there's a couple of really large programs. They pull from the surrounding towns. They have, we have a couple of clubs that are, I'll call them super teams. Every year they're in the mix. Every year they pull 2 or 3 more kids from other programs that are really good, and it drives the competition overall down. The higher level competition gets better and better, but competition pool gets tighter and tighter, if that makes sense.
Sure.
The way we have this league set up, both middle school and high school, is you have to attend the school you play for. There are no sending districts. You can't, if you live in Marlton, but you go to a private high school, you have to play for the private high school. Go put a team together. The first year we had a little bit of pushback on that. And when folks realized that, hey, we're really serious about that rule, we're not going to grant exceptions, we started seeing an influx of some of the other schools. We even have a couple of the VOTEC schools now have teams. So CCIT and GCIT and CCTS, they all have teams now involved because they want to, those kids want to play. So it's been fun.
That's excellent. The fact that there's varsity and JV, are there different divisions that, like a bigger school that has bigger teams? I mean, is that potentially an anticipation that you might do, or?
Yeah, we've had some talks about that. How we tier off the schools. Actually, I was on the phone yesterday with Anthony San Rocco, who I know you guys know really well, talking about the NBHL and how he has his tier set up.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have a little bit of a problem with we don't want to have blowouts, right? Like we want to have competitive games. Nobody wants to lose 10-0. Nobody wants to win 10-0. Well, if you do, maybe you shouldn't be playing this game, right? It's not necessarily, though, the size of the high school, more where the high school is located. So the high schools that are located closer to the established rinks have more kids that play ball hockey. Yes, they have more kids in the school student population, but just because there's more kids in the school doesn't necessarily mean there's more kids that play ball hockey. So it's been a little bit of a challenge. The first couple of years wasn't so much, right? We only had 12 teams the first year, so everybody played. Last year we ended up with an East and a West division. This year it looks like an East and a West, quite possibly a shore division, not set yet, but we have a lot of interest now from schools towards the shore area. So that's still up in the air, depending on how many teams actually register and complete registration, because we have roster limitations, and and requirements that we have to fulfill in order for them to play.
So how big are the rosters then?
So the minimum roster size is 15 and maximum is 24 for both varsity and JV. And the reason we went with a minimum of 15 is because we do not want to have any forfeits. And the kids obviously play, it's high school. They play high school sports and there's a lot of conflicts. And we only play on Sundays, but so do all of their other clubs, right? The ice hockey club plays on, the soccer club teams play on Sundays. The high school sports themselves don't play typically on Sundays. The high schools down here really shied away from playing on Sundays and practicing on Sundays.
So when does the actual season start and when does it roll through? And then
so the season starts the Sunday after Labor Day. We only play on Sundays and we end the Sunday before Thanksgiving. So it's a 10 or 11 week period. We only play on Sundays. And we play on Sundays because when we were first talking about it, I reached out to a bunch of high school kids and said, hey, if this league happens, when can you play? And they all wrote back Sunday mornings, which really kind of surprised me a bit because when I was in high school, I didn't want to get up and do stuff on Sunday mornings. There was other stuff going through my head, right? But they said, yeah, Sundays mornings. If we're going to play, we have to play Sunday mornings. We can't play, during the weeknights are no good because of all other practices and all that kind of stuff. And of course, nobody wants to play on Saturdays. High school, if they have their Saturdays off, they want off.
Gotcha. Dan, do you have any questions on that?
Well, one, just out of curiosity, even if a nighttime was a better time, is it pretty standard or commonplace for all the rinks to have lights?
So the first 3 seasons we used 2 of the local rinks here. One is in Medford, New Jersey, and that is a full-size deck with lights. And then we have 3 rinks in my hometown that are all deck now with lights that we have had access to. The local programs here have been really good to us and helped us out there. So we had 4 full-size rinks with lights that we're able to use because with the middle school league last year, we started that on Sundays, but they started at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and they went till 9 o'clock at night. So the lights really became a factor. So lights are needed. We decided, one of the first things we decided was we want all the games to be played on deck. We want all the games to be played on rinks that are, as close to the same size as possible. And we kept them all, I'll say, local to the guys that are running the league, so we can oversee it the first couple of years to make sure that we don't have code of conduct violations and that stuff. We want to keep a real tight noose around that.
Sorry, Dan.
Just I think on that on the rule side of things, do you guys have your own rule book or do you follow like USA ball hockey? Is it floating blue or is it red line?
So we play the same rules as I believe all of the youth programs down here in South Jersey and the youth tournaments. So it's floating blue line icing. There's a little bit of modification on the rules in that we play 12-minute periods versus 10, and we play 2 full-minute penalties. So I know a lot of places play a minute penalty. We want the penalties. We don't want a lot of penalties. We don't want a lot of issues. So we made the penalties 2 minutes. And they count. You get a 2-minute power play, you can really set up and do some damage. And it's penalty. It's called a penalty for a reason. It's supposed to hurt the team.
I was just curious. Was Marlton where the NBHL had their cup?
Yeah, Marlton's where the NBHL had their cup. I don't know if you know. Anthony actually was a Marlton resident. I know he's out on the West Coast now. He's my son's age. He played with one of my sons, my oldest son, growing up. So I've known Anthony for the better part of 25 years now.
That's awesome. Yeah, he's a great guy. I mean,
yes, he is.
has done like with what you're doing, the NBHL, it's really exciting to see the progress. You know, where to be frank with you, like where we are in north of Boston, 30 miles, like Leominster, Fitchburg, they're the hub of street hockey in the state of Massachusetts. And then, you know, there's other little pockets that are down in South Coast ball hockey, which is close to the Rhode Island border. They're doing great stuff too. So we're hoping to get like a niche market going in the North Shore. But we've talked a lot to Anthony about growing leagues and things like that. And like I said, Scott, your name comes up a lot when talking about growing the game as well. So I did want to ask you, how big is the mountain rinks? I heard they're bigger. They're about 180. Is that true?
They're all three of them are 80 by 180.
Okay, so they are bigger. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
80 by 180.
So one of the things that is interesting, I don't know much about New Jersey's, you know, when it comes to the sports. I'm assuming football is big. I don't know high school hockey in New Jersey, but do you ever anticipate that your program becomes a part of, like, in Massachusetts, it's called the Massachusetts Interscholastic, I think it's Athletic Association, the MIAA. Do you ever anticipate that this program kind of becomes part of?
I don't. And so in New Jersey, we have the same thing as the NJISSA, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
It's all part of the school districts and this, you know, all that, you know, part of the state. I don't see that happen because it hasn't happened with the ice hockey guys yet, and they've been around for a long time.
Okay.
I don't know if it's an insurance thing, if it's a manpower thing, if it's a combination. And at the same time, if it did become part of the school or the state, then the schools and the state would then have to have control of the league and the coaching situation.
Gotcha.
Which might be good, might be bad, depending on how it's set up. But right now, all of our coaches in the high school league are dads, right? The majority of them are dads that, you know, their kids play ball, they've coached in local leagues, the kids want to continue to play, so they're involved. We do have strict coaching standards though in the league, and they're really forced on us by the state, which is good. New Jersey has what they call a little league law. It was started in baseball, but it's through all youth sports. So if you coach a youth sports team in New Jersey, you have to be certified by the state. It's a 3-hour course. It's put on by Rutgers. You can take it online now. It's good for life. And then you have to have a concussion and a background check.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Great stuff. Yeah, that's great. I just the only, and I'm not saying that it needs to be under like the NJ, whatever that group is. I was just curious if you had ever thought that that's where it would head. So
yeah,
that was just out of curiosity.
Yeah, we actually have because the name is High School Ball Hockey League. Every time we have a new school or a new team that wants to join, they always say, "Oh, do I have to get the superintendent's approval or I have to get the athletic department's approval?" I'm like, no. I'm like, yeah. They actually, if you call them, they're gonna like, no, we don't know anything about them. We don't want to know anything about them. Good luck, but yeah. So it's been. We actually had one school reach out. That was about 2 weeks ago, and one team, I say, and they went to the superintendent, and the superintendent actually blessed it. And they were like, "Yeah, you can do it, no problem. And you can use the school name." And I'm like, "Really?" They said, "Yeah." And they're like, "Absolutely." I'm like, "That's cool. Interesting." They're like, "Oh, well, the kid, you know, one of the kids in the on the school board, I guess one of his parents is on the school board, so I guess that helped a little bit." So again, it's all who you know sometimes.
That's right. You're absolutely right. That's awesome. Yeah, because I know Leominster and Fitchburg. I like I said, I don't know how much you know about those programs, but they actually combine their cadet program so that they could have a season, and I think it's done. I think it's done fairly well. And they did that last year. So how about practices and things like that though? Do the kids practice? How does that work with busy schedules?
So it really depends on the team. I'll give you two extreme examples. My brother coaches Shawnee ball hockey. They're in the next town over from where I live, and they practiced all summer, once or twice a week. And it was really team driven, player driven. The players reached out to my brother, so we want to practice. Find us some rink time and such. And they did. They practiced, and they did really well this year. My team, I coach Cherokee, which is where I went to high school, actually, so that's pretty fun for me. My team told me, look, we just want to show up and we want to play. We don't want to have practice. We're doing so many other things. Please don't make us practice, once or twice a week. So literally in 2 years, we've had one practice. I'm kind of lucky. I have some really gifted athletes on the team. So we get lucky that way. But that's really two extremes. Some teams practice, some teams don't. All of the local rinks have been really good as long as we provide them with a certificate of insurance. They get us on the rink where we need to.
Interesting. That's cool.
Yeah.
So you have freshmen through seniors playing together then?
We have freshmen through seniors playing together. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Wow,
yeah.
That's impressive. Now here, the other question that I have is obviously, Danny can tell you stories. We went to the same high school he graduated from there, and then I went off to a different prep school. But on game days, remember this, Dan? This is sort of a little story, Scott. But the cheerleaders used to decorate our lockers. Remember that, Dan? Did they do that for you? Yeah. So the question that I'm asking is not really about cheerleaders. It's about do you feel like there's school spirit in these games? Do you feel like that might be the future? Or is this just sort of I know Sunday mornings, it's like you said, it's hard to get high school kids out of bed sometimes. But is there school spirit? Is there things like that?
There's definitely school spirit. A lot of the teams have their own Facebook pages, and they post stuff about their players and their teams. There's some school rivalries going on now. One of them is obviously my brother's team, Shawnee, and my team, Cherokee. They're crosstown rivals, town next to each other. But there's a lot of that going on. The middle school division, the folks who won the championship this year, they actually, the principal allowed them to put the trophy in the trophy case at the local school, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's, we don't get a lot of we don't get a lot of outside fans for the playoffs, because all of the players know each other as teams got eliminated. A lot of the other players hung around and watched the playoff games, because all these kids play together on different club teams. So they're playing against each other for the high school, but when tournament season starts up, they're on, a lot of them are on the same teams.
It's awesome.
So
yeah, that's awesome. It's such a cool idea. I mean, obviously those, the school spirit, that's a sidebar from how the league is operating, but still, that's excellent. Do you anticipate that might be the case, where you're getting more fans for these kids someday, or it grows in that area?
I think so. The first year was a really small league. The last 2 years, the second year was pandemic, and we played. The coaches wore masks, and we limited fans, and we spaced out the games, trying to discourage people from coming to the games. Last year was a little bit more open. This year I anticipate it being wide open, and I'm hoping we have some more fans. Last year we also we went to Season Cast. Are you guys familiar with Season Cast? They have an online subscription streaming service. So we streamed all of our games live, which awesome. Then we could go back and watch. So they're all saved in the cloud, so to speak, and that helped us a bit.
I've never heard of Season Cast, although we're always interested in that for you know, someday having our own way of streaming games, if we would have a tournament, obviously. So
Yeah, it was really economical.
Yeah.
The season cast itself is not too expensive. You buy a channel. We broadcast with an iPad and an air card. It was pretty easy. We actually had one of the local players from Lenape. His name's Owen Case. He did all of our broadcasting. He put together a whole team of high school kids that showed up and ran the iPads, and then they cut video and made highlights and all that kind of stuff. They did a great job for us.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, that's cool.
I'm so impressed. I really am. I think it's like I said, I think it's great what you guys are doing. You know, finding time for high school kids to keep playing and competing. I hopefully will be able to watch some. I mean, Dan knows this. I try to watch some games from afar. Obviously, being up in Massachusetts. But sort of forward thinking is how do you feel like? I kind of want to go back to this question again, but with the teams being East and West, how many rinks you got, Martin? How many, like, what's the radius of these teams? You know, are they within 50 miles of each other? I mean, how does that look?
Right now, they're so this season, 2022, will be within about 60 miles of each other, and we know for this season we're going to have to expand the rink. So the first 3 years we used just 2 facilities. We've already talked to Gloucester. They've agreed to allow us to come in and host some games there. Also been talking to some of the folks at the shore, particularly in Egg Harbor Township. Egg Harbor Township High School is coming in this year about, you know, allowing us to host some games, you know, down towards that way. But that's not owning a rink is the limiting factor, right? So we need to secure facilities before we grow the league really any further than Jersey. We've had some conversations with Anthony San Rocco about how he, you know, grew the NBHL. That's the goal. Our goal is to have a national high school and a national middle school league, and then at the end of the season, have the top teams come together and have a true high school national championship. Now that's probably a few years off still, but that's the goal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think I mean, I don't know, Dan, if you want to answer, you know, I mean, that would be something that we would potentially have interest in as well. You know, being able to have Dan, you might want to help me out with this thought.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, obviously the word that comes to my mind is almost like you know, the franchise opportunity, the idea of, you know, us putting together based on the template or working with under this ball hockey league, you know, would be exciting, because I think even talking to, I don't remember his name, but the son from Milek, which was talking about how we have so much Anthony, where there's so many disconnected rules and rink sizes and things like that, whereas we don't want to create more of a problem. We want to work underneath, you know, a body or under rules and management that all makes sense, so that you can have enough consistency at a national level where, yes, we played on the same or similar size, we run by the same rules, and you know, and that's a really exciting thing to think about. I think for the North Shore, the biggest issue is still there's not, you know, rinks everywhere that, you know, are conducive to playing at a high level. That's our biggest challenge in Gloucester, Massachusetts, is the kids have played on a basketball court their whole career, and that's why we're trying to get this rink going, because then you really open up everybody to the world of ball hockey.
Yeah.
So I agree. And I think that I'll say the franchise tag is really the way to go, is in order to grow the high school ball hockey league, both the high school and the middle school division. We're going to have agreements in place with folks like you, where we come in and say, hey, you know, if you're interested, this is the format. This is the, you know, these are the playing rules that we're going with. We would like you to host. The key there is, I think when we grow, we have to do it at single facilities to start, right? So to come in and do it the same way we did it the first year, so you have real strict controls on.
Yeah. And you've already been successful, you know, in creating a model that works, you know, and I love the idea of what you're saying, where, you know, everybody comes together for a national tournament, or, you know, the NBHL is the two teams, isn't it, like the two teams that either win their playoffs or the runner-up, they're invited to the Milet Cup. Is that sort of what you're suggesting? Or
Absolutely. That's exactly where we're looking to model it after.
Okay.
So depending on maybe the size of your local program, maybe it's the winner, maybe it's the winner and the finalist. You know, depending on how many teams and how many divisions, and have a 16 or a 24 team, you know, weekend tournament, and, you know, not always do it in the same location, and allow these players then to travel. I know Anthony said he's having it again in Marlton. You know, one of the things that you have to look at when you're trying to host a tournament, as I'm sure you know, is, you know, how many rinks do you have and how many hours in the day?
Exactly.
The nice thing about the facility in Marlton is it's 3 rinks, the same size, the same surface. The bad thing is it's outside.
Sure.
Right. So
Sure.
if you end up with a rainy weekend, well, you play in the rain. So
Absolutely. I think that's a wonderful model, and I think that New Jersey, like I said, New Jersey is very much ahead of where we are. Just talking to you is just a wealth of information that gives us ideas. And to Dan's point, I mean, that's something we've always talked about, is not necessarily reinventing any wheels, but just sort of, like you said, following the guide, you know, what rules you're playing under, make it consistent. And from our perspective, the NBHL, I can't believe how quickly it's grown. Our treasurer, Scott, grew up in Gloucester, but he works at Disney now. He's playing in the NBHL in Florida. He lives close to Orlando, obviously, since he works down there. But he's going to be playing the NBHL, the Florida division. So it's just amazing how well Anthony this thing has taken off, and the publicity it's getting. That for what you're doing, I can see you guys, you know, blowing this up too and expanding it, and you know, we'll be your biggest fans, you know. So a lot of potential for sure.
excellent. Well, we should talk more about you know, having you guys as maybe the first franchisee.
Yeah, that would be cool. We have, you know, like Danny mentioned, we're in a unique situation because, like Danny said, there's not a lot of rinks. I mean, our rink is going to be 160 by 80. It's, you know, fairly typical for regulation size, but it's going to be the only one around. You know, the closest thing is probably Leominster, in like I said, Pittsburgh, and that, like I told you, that's an hour and 15 minutes away. So for us, we're really kind of trying to introduce this as a new market. And to your point, though, we have a lot of ice hockey players. You know, ice is pretty dominant in Massachusetts, obviously, with high school hockey and things like that. Whereas I think our program has been successful on a basketball court. You know, we're trying to incorporate more kids that are just not from our local area. And some of the conversations is, you know, kids are more likely to play on a real facility than a basketball court. You know what I mean? So you grew up like we did, playing in our streets and things like that. You know what it's like. But we've got our work cut out for us as well. So, but it's a great challenge more than we're fortunate more than anything. So, yeah, I'm fascinated. So you mentioned the girls program. Same setup. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the girls program set up a little bit different. It's a draft league, and it's from 6th to 12th graders. Obviously, we wouldn't be able to draw enough female participation from any one school to fill out a roster. Well, we don't think so. And we really want the girls to be able to continue to play and play at a higher level. And we've seen that that they wanted also. Jason Kelly called me last year and asked me if I would be interested in helping with the Team New Jersey 16U team that played last year. We played in a couple of tournaments out at clubs, and then we went up to Tiverton, Rhode Island to play, and we played in Buffalo at the Future Stars. It was an awesome event. That's a facility.
I was there.
You were there?
Yeah. Yeah, I was there. Awesome event. But anyway.
Yeah, that facility is amazing.
Beautiful facility. Yeah, loved it. So
I particularly like the rope course over the rinks. That was kind of strange, but that was.
It was, yeah. I took pictures and I sent them to Dan. Which I talked to Steve Gregory down there, and the only thing that he said is he would like to have tile on both of those rinks. Although I like the concrete. The concrete looked real slick anyway, but I don't know how your girls felt about it out there. But I would like to have tile. The concrete's not so bad. My first experience with the concrete was when we went to Bratislava, and we played over there with the juniors, and that was it's really slick. It's slippery, but the kids, they adjust really quick to the game. They really do. That's awesome.
So Jason called me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in helping coach the team?" And I said, "Sure. That sounds fun." And it was a blast. It was a bit of a learning curve for me. I've coached all female teams in the past, but for a different sport, for soccer. Probably 7, 8, 9 years coaching my niece in soccer. And we had a really good time. But we also saw now there's a void in leagues for all female teams and for female players. So we decided to give this a shot. I didn't think last year that 6th grade girls could play with 11th, 12th grade girls, but that's not the case. They absolutely can.
Awesome.
As you both said, you have young children that are female, right?
Yeah.
You'll learn that they grow up faster than boys. My daughter's the oldest. She was full grown way quicker than the boys are. Probably still not full grown.
Good to know.
So the league will be 6th to 12th graders. We'll probably have 4 to 6 teams. We're going to try to get 15 again on the team each. But that'll be a draft league. So we'll get some volunteer coaches and sit around and make the teams as even as we can, and let them have at it.
That's awesome. Obviously with having daughters, we're always trying to figure out ways to make sure that they're staying active and they feel equal, for sure. So, that's a great experience.
Yeah. I actually think girls are easier to coach than boys. They listen better. That's it. They just listen better. Girls listen better than boys.
That's, our dad says the same thing about when he coached girls ice hockey. So, Dan and I, we don't know sometimes if our kids even listen to us when we're coaching, right, Dan?
Well, yeah, that was our concern was starting the Chipmunk League. Was just that idea that we need our kids to understand that where the coach is, because they are really good, in gymnastics class and in school, they wear out their listening ears by the time they get home. But I was, pleasantly surprised, they did a really good job this year. It was more my son who's on the young side who, was, tired off in the corner, wanting to just, shoot the ball and not actually do the drill. But he wasn't even 3 at the time. So, he wouldn't be allowed out there if he wasn't, a family member. So
yeah,
that's true. That's true, Scott. He's got some skill already though, which is great.
Excellent.
I think I have 2 more questions. Dan, if you have anything, just chime in. This is from basically for you. It's what are your goals for the game of ball hockey, and what are you most excited about as this future continues here?
I guess what I'm most excited about is what I've seen is the growth over the last 3 to 4 years with both USA ball hockey and NBHL, that there is a national hockey league now, a national ball hockey league that's pulling in players from all over the country, and not just a bunch of splintered groups. And I think that needs to be continued to work on to get us all under one umbrella, all under one governing body. It's been a bit of a sticking point for a few decades now of, who's the governing body, what are the rules, and I think ball hockey really needs to get all the programs on the same page. I guess that's the main goal. The same page for rules and code of conduct, and just generally in how the game is run.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the most confusing things is that whereas, Danny and I have, I've said this a million times already, I apologize. It's, we grew up primarily playing the game of ice hockey, which you already know it's a similar model. It's town teams, it's club teams or select teams that you play for, and then this idea that, some kids want to play college hockey, especially in the Boston area. It's like a dream come true if you can make Boston University and play in the Beanpot. And then, obviously playing in the NHL. But my whole point of this thing is that there's usually this, there's USA Hockey that mandates a lot of these rules that organizations follow. And in Massachusetts, it's amazing because like you had mentioned, the bigger organizations that have been around for years. They like Fitchburg has 3 rinks, Leominster has 3 rinks, but then there's these like small little places right around Boston that have these rinks, but you wouldn't even know anything about them. Because they don't have like an actual organization. Does that make sense? So you're like, how do you start to incorporate these people to see if they're even interested in joining a governing body? So for us, as being, I still call us newbies, we're trying to figure out like how we're going to run our organization, what rules do we plan, or things like that. So that's a long-winded rant on agreeing with you.
Yeah, it's a tough thing, especially for organizations that have been around for a long time, that are used to running things their way, to have now to, I'll say, bend themselves and kind of reinvent themselves to fall under, a governing body's umbrella. There's challenges there, from, playing rule challenges to coaching certification challenges to insurance challenges. And the same thing for folks that are starting, new rinks. It's, what rules are we going to play under? Are we going to play ball, street, deck? Who's going to be our official ball? Who's going to handle our, conflict resolutions? What code of conduct are we going to live under? All that kind of stuff. When we started the high school ball hockey league, kind of pulled in all of the local rule books, all of the code of conducts. We made our code of conduct much stricter than any of the, ones that were around, incorporated, some of the rule books. We have a rule book online. We didn't write it. It's a combination of, everybody's rule book that's come before us. But yeah, it would be good to have a universal rule book, a universal code of conduct. So when a player acted out in, say the Marlton tournament, that when he went to the Pittsburgh tournament, he was still held accountable. It would eliminate, I think, a lot of issues, on rinks.
Yeah.
The governing body, I know you mentioned Corey before. Corey and Chris Banks and the folks that are running USA Ball Hockey, they're doing a hell of a job. I was involved with, as I mentioned before, with the juniors with Ashy for a couple go-arounds. Chris Banks actually dragged me into that position. I had a great time doing that for 5-6 years. It's not easy. They have their work cut out for them. Every time they want to try to bring somebody on board, it brings up a whole host of issues. And every rink, every facility has their own quirks that they have to try to manage through. It's not easy. It's a full-time job, especially, they're all volunteers, right? Nobody's getting paid in this industry.
Right.
There's still no scholarships. If you're playing ball hockey, it's because you love it. If you're running a league, it's because you love it.
Right.
You're not doing it to pay your mortgage.
Right, absolutely. I mean, that's a great point. I mean, like you said, a lot of our, I mean, the volunteering aspects, you know, that's what and Dan and I, we did a podcast last year with some guys that were going to play in the U.S. Nationals, not U.S. Nationals, the U.S. Outdoor Championship that's up in Pittsburgh. So it's held in Pittsburgh, and it's amazing, like the dedication that guys still have to play this game, from even practicing. You know, I was making the joke. You don't see, you know, high school men's, ice hockey men's leagues, you know, having practices and things like that. You know, usually it's once a week. People are, you know, skating and having a good time. But there's some, I love, that's what I love most about this is there's a lot of passion, and you know, where we still have so much to learn ourselves. But yeah, I can see there's some quirky things for sure. And like I said, when we went to the U.S. Nationals, like we're preparing our team for, you know, they don't play floating blue. It's red line offsides. So
Right.
we had to prepare our kids for that rule where, you know what I mean? If we go and play in not Pittsburgh, if you go to play in Pittsburgh, they're going to play floating blue, and things like that. So it's, you know, there's combinations in the game anyway. But,
Yeah, when I was the commissioner for Marlton, we played center line offsides in our rec league, and then we played floating blue in our rec league, and then we went to tournament. When my kids were small, we played center line offsides.
Center line offsides.
Center line offsides, and then that was switched. I'm going to say 10 years ago, maybe a little longer, where they switched to floating blue, but.
Awesome.
You know, switching mid hockey season is difficult. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good point. I didn't realize that. Dan, did you have any other questions for Scott?
Well, in a sense, I have a lot of questions around the intricacies of the league setup, but I think obviously as we're trying to wrap up time, you know, we wouldn't get into too many more details about, like, just kind of curious on the cost or how it is managed, and, you know, do you have to actually pay for the time on the rinks, or are they mostly public rinks? And then talking about rules made me think of referees and things like that actually getting trained and paid and things like that. So there's obviously a lot of the devil's in the details, but
yeah, I mean, I can give you a quick synopsis of all that if you want.
Sure.
So the high school ball hockey league, the only guys who don't get paid are the guys that run the league. Everybody else is, and the guys who coach, right? Everybody else is getting paid. The refs get paid. The video guys get paid. The guy who does the score clock gets paid. And that was really set up because there's been a wholehearted shift in youth sports in the country that people want to just pay their fee, come and have their kids play and then leave. The volunteer aspect of youth sports and helping is on a steady decline is what we've seen. So when we set up our budgets, everybody gets paid. Our refs get paid. We have a really good ref crew. There were some seasoned vets and some young guys, and then we bring in some high school kids to help ref the middle school division, and you usually put a seasoned guy on with them. Cost this year is going to be about $165 a player. For that, you get your jerseys, your shorts, and all of your fees and insurance included. And of course, as you know, insurance is a big chunk of change.
Absolutely.
But that's that's how the high school and the middle school leagues are set up.
And what about from a stats perspective, do you guys use a system, or is it manual?
So the first season, we collected all the score sheets, and I had a stat sheet going online, and we had a coach call me and said, "Hey, is there a way we can get this kid removed from the stat sheet?" And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, one of the high school team coaches, he played another sport. It was football. The coach found out he was playing ball hockey on Sundays and told him he wasn't allowed. So for that season, we changed his name to John Smith on the stat sheet. That's a true story. And then we just stopped doing stats because we didn't want to have issues.
Gotcha.
So we tried to do the whole stat thing and, you know, keep track of points and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure the individual teams, you know, I can tell you on my team, you know, the kids all, you know, they all joke about who the leading goal scorer is and all that kind of stuff. But yeah,
That's awesome.
so
yeah, that was a question in there too about, you know, what if you play football and things like that. So, but
yeah, so we kind of we don't publish rosters and who's on what team and all that kind of stuff anymore. Try to have the least amount of conflicts as possible.
makes sense. Yeah, good question. Yeah. Anything else, Danny? I mean, I know.
Yeah, I think that's mostly it that I can think of. So
Yeah, I'm like I said, Scott. I mean, thank you so much for doing this today. I can't stress enough how impressed I am with everything that you've been able to accomplish with growing these leagues. I follow you guys on the Facebook page, and just so impressed with the work you've done. You've been at it for a long time, so thank you for all that commitment.
No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and hopefully you and I will, Dan, we'll stay in touch anyway. But again, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So
yeah, thank you.
so next time, I think we're gonna have our friend Ryan Wilson come on and talk a little bit of referee on the next podcast. I know it's been a little while since we've been kind of on hiatus with a lot of other things going on. But oh, Scott, is there a way that people can reach out to you if they have questions? I apologize, I forgot about that.
Yeah, absolutely. They can reach out to us through the Facebook page, or you know, you can instant message me there, or you can send us an email. It's highschoolballhockey@gmail.com, and of course, we have our own website, which is highschoolballhockey.com. You can jump on there and fill out a form.
Excellent. So really, really bright future. I mean, I can't say it enough, Dan. I mean, I'm so impressed with what they do in New Jersey anyway. I mean, the NBHL started there. Now you have your high school ball hockey league, you got a middle school league, girls playing. It's really impressive. So, you know, like I said, I hope that we can somehow include ourselves in this in the future, but I don't know what you think. Any last thoughts?
No, yeah, I think that's it. I think it's really exciting because the biggest challenge we've had, you know, in our program is basically kids age out after 14 and they don't have anything to do, or, you know, if they really are passionate about the sport. And that's why things like this and going to the U.S. Nationals in Leominster and exposing everybody, say, through this podcast and through all of our other mediums, you know, is to get kids to excited about it. That way we can better compete with hockey players and have a really good outlet for off ice training, even if your overall goal is ice hockey. So, you know, learning more about the intricacies of how to run something like this and expose it to the greater North Shore, because the radius isn't that terrible. Like, you know, there's a lot of towns that would be willing to drive to Gloucester, Massachusetts, because of the state-of-the-art facility. So I think that's also the exciting part. You know, if they have a 60-mile radius and people are willing to drive that because they're good facilities, it's good competition, you know, it'll work out as well, even if we only have, you know, say our facility. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really exciting.
For sure. Yeah. So we'll reconvene. I know the weather is, I don't know if I'll be able to come down and skate soon with this 60-degree weather we have with your rink, but
I know you shovel it one day and it's melted the next day.
you know, so, but
crazy.
anyway, we'll be back with, like I said, I want to say Corey Wilson, that's Ryan's brother, but Ryan's going to come on and talk a little bit about USA ball hockey and what it's like, what it takes to be a referee. And he's got great stories anyway. So till next time, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Thank you to Scott, and we will see you next time on the Sweet Hockey Life.
All right. Thank you.